The purpose of this recording is to show teachers how to use an advanced report in the MAP system called the Quadrant Report, or the Achievement, Status, and Growth Summary with Quadrant Chart. The purpose of the quadrant charts are to quickly determine both a student's achievement and growth levels, identify students for whom instruction is working very well and they're growing at high levels, and students who are not growing in their learning. And then to use that information to begin to connect instructional strategies to both growth and achievement. To get to the achievement, status, and growth report, once you've clicked on the icon, there are several filters that you're going to want to fill out. The first would be the term rostered filter. You're going to want to make sure that that rostered filter or menu says Fall 2020-2021, because those would be the students that are in your class right now. For term tested, if you have already administered the MAP assessment this fall, you could select Fall 2020-21. If you have not, and you're looking at this information before school starts, you could select Winter 2019-20, which would be the last time that students took the MAP assessment before the COVID shutdown. Select your school, your instructor. If you're an elementary teacher, again, all of these classes are the same. If you're a secondary teacher, you can actually look at this period by period for what you teach. And then there are a couple of different ways that you can compare it. In this example, because I'm looking at winter, I want to see how much growth the students made between the time they tested with us in the fall of last year and the time they tested in the winter. So this would be the period between September and approximately January during the 2019-20 school year. It's also possible to look at a growth comparison over the course of an entire year. So you could look from winter of 2019 to winter of 2020 if you'd like. Personally, I think it's best to look at the one that compares the students within a particular school year, because they're with one particular teacher during that time. When you click on Create Report, the quadrant chart will show up. I'm only showing the top of this report. Down below, you would see all of the students' names along with additional information, including their RIT ranges for this test. But for the quadrant report, what you're going to see on the right are several different options that you can select. Right now, what I'm looking at is math, reading, and language usage tests. So each of these little points on the graph, whether it's a square, a diamond, or a plus, represents a student's performance. I think it's a little bit easier if you deselect and only look at one test at a time. So for the purposes of this video, I've deselected math and language usage, and right now I'm only looking at reading. Each of these little boxes represents a student, and if in the real report, if you hover over the box, the student's name will appear. This horizontal line represents growth, 50% growth. So students that are above the horizontal line are growing higher than average. Students that are below the horizontal line are growing below average. So if students were to be right on that 50th percentile line, their achievement level would never be any higher or lower from test to test if they were growing right at the 50th percentile. If they're growing below the 50th percentile, their achievement is actually getting worse. If they're growing above the 50th percentile, their achievement is getting better. The vertical line represents achievement level. So this right here is 50th percentile. This is average achievement. Students to the right of this vertical line are achieving at a higher than 50th percentile level, higher than average. Students that are below the 50th percentile line are achieving below average, below 50th percentile. Remember, all of these percentiles, both achievement and growth, are based on the national normed study that was just completed over the past year and a half. This is not based on, these norms are not based on just Urbandale district data or even state of Iowa data. They're national data based on national norms. But now that we know what the growth and achievement percentiles look like, you can really take a look at these quadrants to see how students are falling out. So obviously we want as many students up here in the green quadrant as possible, because this green quadrant represents better than average growth and better than average achievement. So these kids are high achievement, high growth. Students that are down here in the lower right quadrant also have high achievement, but they're growing at less than the 50th percentile, or less than average. If these students were to continue to have very low growth, their achievement would slowly start to, their achievement percentile would become lower. Students over here in the upper left quadrant are low achievement, but very high growth. So for example, this point right up here, this student is growing at the 99th percentile. They're making incredible growth. Their achievement, however, is only still about the 25th. But if they keep growing at this incredible rate, their achievement percentile will continue to get higher and higher and higher. So if students can't be here, it's great if they're here, high growth. I mean, we definitely want high achievement too, that's great, but these students aren't necessarily growing. These students, though low achieving, are growing. Where we want to avoid having students, of course, would be this low achievement, low growth. So these students are below average in not only achievement, but also below average in growth. And you've got one student that's right on the line. So 40th percentile achievement, but 50th percentile growth, which means this student is likely to stay at the 40th percentile for achievement. The nice thing about this report is when you're looking at your students from fall to winter, let's say, and you've had those students in your class for, 3, 4, 5 months, and you're looking at this, you really can look and see, gosh, particularly with these kids, what am I doing that's helping? Maybe these 3 are in their own little differentiated group, or maybe you're doing a particular intervention with some of these students, and it's a great time to kind of sit back and reflect and say, what am I doing that's working so well that these kids are having such phenomenal growth? And again, that could be an intervention. It could just be, some additional supplemental things you're doing in core instruction. Likewise, looking at these students that have low growth, it's also a good time to say, gosh, maybe I'm doing a different intervention with these kids. It doesn't appear to be working, for example. So this is a nice reflection tool for teachers to, again, quickly see where students are at in terms of their growth and their achievement, but also to maybe start to identify some of those strategies that are working particularly well or maybe not working as well.